Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's final video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 27th of January, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that. We extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They are running to around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at CFS V2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks. That gets us into towards the middle part of February, and I'll get on that for you in a moment. Just say that first, a video today was our 6th UK weather forecast. We've also brought back the week ahead forecast, first one of those since April, proper OG feature at GavsWeatherVids. In fact, probably the feature that's kicked off everything many years ago. So check out weekend forecast if you want to do that. And we've released the ECM GWV there for channel members as well. Classic Saturday here at GavsWeatherVids. So you can enjoy the content of the channel, give us a like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much everyone for doing that. Right, okay, let's have a look then at the 10 to 14 day. We're going to start off with the latest Windflow map from earthnoschool.net, showing that we've got very slack gradients today. Trough of low pressure sitting to the west of the country and not much in the way of wind. We've got high pressure building over Scandinavia, or ridges building, I should say, really across northern Europe. Will eventually become an area of high pressure, and all of this low pressure in the Atlantic are going to come up against that high pressure. You're going to have a proper old battle for about the middle of the week onwards, and where we go with that will determine whether we get a cold and wintry last week to January or not. And that, of course, is focus up 10 to 14 days at the moment. Central in temperature is now sitting at 2.7. That's 1.1 degree below the 61.90 average provisional to the 16th of January. That's gradually ticking up. We'll probably go into the freeze through the early part of next week. Of course, if we get a cold final week, though, that could tumble back down into the twos, and then that would be a notably colder than average January. All to play for, all to be revealed. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're at London today, so the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. Starting off above average with the upper air temperatures at the moment, relatively mild conditions continuing till about the middle of the second half next week. And then a cooling trend still in evidence. See the white line, the ensemble mean, is dipping quite significantly underneath the red line through the last week of January, so ensemble mean going quite significantly underneath the long-term 30-year average. Of course, there is still quite a lot of scatter, it's all extended range stuff, so colder ensemble down here. Some of them are dipping down into proper, really cold freezer type levels. Have got milder ensemble members up here, including the latest GFS run, which is this thick green line. That actually becomes a mild outlier at one point within the run, and it's generally on the milder side of the ensemble range there. We'll look at the 6-set GFS in a moment. Precipitation wise, so not completely dry over the next few days. A few showery bursts coming and going, but not much in the way of precipitation. Later next week and through to the end of January, pick up more precipitation spikes, and they could carry on into the start of February as well. Snow row for London is looking like that, so we do see some snow spikes coming through there, starting from around the 23rd, 24th January next weekend and peaking towards the last days of the month and into the beginning of February. Not that many of them, but there are some snow spikes. If we go to Norwich, that's how things looking. Norwich, very similar, and Oxford looks like that. Actually more wintry potential maybe for Oxford with some rather bigger snowfall spikes, I suppose, closer to the Cotswolds maybe. Temperature anomalies for the next 5 days to the 22nd of January, a little bit above average. 8 to 12 day is going colder than average, both 10 to 14 day going even colder. So despite all the chopping and changing, the GFS has actually been very stable with this for several days. The operational runs are chopping, changing, and we're going to see that in this video. But like the GFS, certainly in terms of the cooling trend becoming colder through the last week of January, has actually been very consistent. Day by day, I've looked at these temperature anomalies, and they have always been showing this last week of January to be consistently colder than average, and if anything, becoming colder. So once you strip out all of the noise, maybe there's not as much chopping and changing going on as it might appear, just going by the operational runs. Precipitation anomalies for the next 7 days to 24th of January, average or rather on the dry urban average side, 8 to 14 days, looks like that dry urban average in the north, and perhaps a bit on the west side down in the south. Right, here we go, but this is what you're waiting for, chart data. Let's start going through it all. Got a lot to look at here. So, we're going to begin with UK Met Euro run. Starting on Tuesday, we've got low pressure to the west, high pressure to the east. We go through into middle of next week, increasingly wet and windy with low pressure coming up against that blocking area of high pressure, beginning to try to shift the wind around into a southeasterly later next week. That's how we look when we get to midnight next Saturday. Very much poised between the blocking high to the northeast and that low pressure to the south-southwest. Remember, to get a cold easterly, we've got to send this area of low pressure in that direction, northwest to southeast, sink below down to Biscay, Spain, and ultimately to the Mediterranean. If we do that, the high pressure is there waiting in the wings, and that will sink southwards to take up some of the space, and in between we'll get the wind around to the east. It's close, not quite there, up to midnight next Saturday. That southeast wind will be starting to bring a colder feel, though, I think, by next weekend into northern and east regions. How far we go with that and develop it remains to be seen. Icon, again, is looking like this. So a ridge to the east, a low to the west on Tuesday. Let battle commence. Into the second half of next week, well, we've got that high pressure strengthening over Scandinavia, trying to fend off the lows in the Atlantic. It looks like the Icon run is pretty much getting the wind around to the east by next weekend. That's midday next Saturday. And again, that low pressure is heading in that direction. The high pressure over Scandinavia is starting to switch the wind around into an easterly back. If it was to continue, well, it will be starting to bring cold weather in next Saturday, but if it was to continue, have got some really quite cold air sitting across northern eastern Europe, ready to flood across Europe, and so by the time we get through to, let's say, Monday the 26th of January, you would expect to be opening the door to very cold easterly winds there. What about the KMA? Let's have a look at that one. Again, low pressure battling it out with high pressure in the second half of next week. Are we going to send that low pressure southeastwards? Well, to some degree, we do by next weekend, but not a definitive break in the lows. And actually, we start to raise heights to the south, so a bit different from the KMA, but a different solution and scenario. High pressure beginning to build to the south, brings up some very mild air into the closing days of January. So much uncertainty for this last week of January. It's absolutely crazy what's going on within the model output at the moment. Right, on to the two GFS operation runs. Of course, we will have a look at the AI runs models as well, see how they're shaping up. So, lots of chart data to get through. This is how the GFS, though, is looking midnight run, so high pressure ridging to the east, low pressure out west through the middle part of next week. Proper battle going on, and as we go into next weekend, the high pressure of Scandinavia starts to win the battle. That low pressure begins to get pushed away to our south and southwest. Winds going into a much colder easterly next weekend, dragging in potentially snow showers into southern and eastern regions in particular, and you know, a very cold easterly wind there. We start to cut off that easterly and sink high pressure through the country through into closing days of the month, mainly dry but potentially pretty cold with that, with some really sharp, maybe quite severe overnight frost. And generally saying blocked and cold with this GFS run and a return of the east to southeasterly winds into the very end of the run. That gets us to the 2nd of February, still under the blocking area of high pressure, mostly dry, but very cold. Snow showers likely in southern and east regions. That's a very cold GFS midnight run there, I think, if you drill down into the detail, which of course we haven't got time to do on this video. But 6 we know this is going to be at the milder end of a range. Let's go back to the ensembles actually and see where that midnight GFS run fitted in. So remember, the green line is the operational run. The 6 is going to be at the warmer end of the range, but what about the midnight run? Let's have a look at that. So that was actually at the colder end of the range. See how the operationals are chopping and changing from one run to another. But when you, as I said, when you look at the anomalies, it's from a GEFS, so temperature anomalies, they haven't really changed over the past last several days. They have been, indicating pretty cold conditions through the last week of January quite consistently, but it's the operations that are flipping and flopping from one run to the next. So that wasn't, well, it was a cold outlier maybe at this point, otherwise it was just at the colder end of the range throughout much of the run there. Right, so let's go back to that GFS 6 then, and again, this is how it's looking. Low pressure west, high pressure to the east, and well, we see the high pressure trying to build into the end of the week, but more energy coming in from off the Atlantic, not sending that low pressure away to the south as well as the midnight run did, and so that keeps the cold air at bay, it keeps the Scandinavian high at bay. It's the low pressure that holds sway on this particular GFS run. Eventually, similar to the KMA, we start to get a push of milder air from the southwest. Eventually, that does all evolve into a northerly for the beginning of February. So another route to cold, of course, is that the Scandinavian high fails. We don't get an easterly, but we do eventually start turning things colder from the north. So that's another possibility by the beginning of February. Well, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much, everyone, for doing that. Why not drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos and content. And don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids and get them to subscribe too. Thanks so much, everyone, for doing that. We only need to put on around 8 subscribers to get us out to 21k. We are very, very, very close to 21,000 subscribers. If you could give us a sub, that'd be amazing. Subscribing to our channel and enabling all notifications is completely free of charge. And it's a great way that you can support the channel. If you want to go further in supporting the channel, well, you can become a channel member. Click the join button on the GavsWeatherVids YouTube homepage. Give a super chat or a super thanks on the live streams and the videos respectively, or you can come through to our PayPal page and give a donation via PayPal, and we will give you a shout out in the vid. So the link to our PayPal page is in the description with this video, so just click through the link, sign to PayPal account and donate whatever you would like. We'll give you a shout out in the vids, and thank you so much, everyone, for doing that. It's absolutely amazing the support that you give to me. I did a live stream last night, loads of super chats on that. So again, thank you so much to all of you for all of the support over all of these many, many years. It's absolutely incredible and absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Right, okay, let's get back to it then. GM, again, with low pressure west, high pressure to the east as we're going through into the middle part of next week. Proper battle taking place. What's going to come of that towards the end of next week? Well, we keep the low pressure sitting just to our west and to our southwest. Wind is having a really good go there at getting around to the east, but that low pressure just not quite sinking away. However, by day 10, it looks like we've more or less gone into a cold easterly via that Scandinavian high. Very close run thing. And then the ECM is looking like this, with low pressure west, high pressure to the east. Familiar scenario, but you know so well. By now on Tuesday into Wednesday, low pressure deepens. At the same time, high pressure strengthens over Scandinavia. The battle commences through the second half of next week. Winds into the southeast through Scotland through to next weekend, and beginning to back southeasterly elsewhere. The ECM then starts to push in an easterly wind for most of the country through the second half of next weekend, becoming colder, and there is wintering potential, of course, as this battle is resolving itself. Heading up toward day 10, where we've got high pressure over Scandinavia, looking mostly dry and cold then. Then we start to bring up more of a southerly flow, but the Scandinavian high is still in business, not going anywhere. Though those easterly winds are on and off and quite persistent. As I look when we get to the end of January, again, a ridge from the Azores to Scandinavia. Winds coming in from the east and from the northeast. Looks pretty cold there, I think, with that ECM operational run. So we'll have a look at the AI in a moment. Let's have a look at the precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from Meteo.com though. And showery bursts of rain coming and going over the next few days, particularly in the south and the west, some of it progressing further northwards and eastwards, some really quite wet weather at times. And these bands of rain will be slow moving because they're not able to clear the coast. You know, they're coming into the UK and Ireland, and they're kind of grinding to a halt, not really successfully getting into the North Sea because of that block sitting over Scandinavia. So this can turn into a very wet pattern, and of course if it's colder it can turn into a very snowy pattern. See 1947 for example. Eventually you notice more and more green turning up as heading toward day 10, so more of this precipitation is turning to sleet and snow by the time you get through to day 10. By day 10, snow showers into the east, Scandinavian highs more or less taken over and drive that cold air in from the east. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10. From the Icelandic Maritime, it gets us to the 27th of January. 19 members of the ECM ensembles with a blocking area of high pressure to the north, low pressure is to the south, pretty much bringing cold air from the east with that. We've got 17 with high pressure again to the north, low pressure a little bit further northwards though, so not quite as cold. Well, it's cold into the north, but probably not quite as cold into the south. And then we've got 15 with low pressure just to the southwest, probably bringing up more of a southerly southeast flow. They all have a northern blocking signal, just how strong that is versus the low pressure to the south. And then in 2 weeks time, this is the option that we've got. So whatever happens at day 10, looks like the ECM ensembles are moving into a colder scenario by the end of January, beginning of February. This actually gets us to the first day of February, and 51 out of 50 members of the ECM ensembles, all of them then have taken the low pressure down to France, have built that blocking area of high pressure to the north, and have successfully turned the wind around into a colder east or northeast. So it remains to be seen how quickly this happens, but the ECM ensembles look like they're favouring colder weather by the end of January there to me. CFS V2, these are 500 millibar high tolerance breaking down to week periods. The first week period takes us from the 17th to 23rd of January. The next week with high pressure towards Scandinavia, low pressure down to the south-southeast, winds coming in from a southerly southeasterly direction. Battle goes on. Week 2 is going to be the 24th to the 30th of January. Low pressure sitting to our west, big blocking area, high pressure to the east, and possibly starting to bring some cold air in from the northwest into the north, into that trough of low pressure. Week 3 is looking like that. It's the 31st of January through to the 6th of February. Again, blocking area of high pressure to the north, low pressure over to the south. We more or less bring the wind in, I think, there for a cold easterly direction, especially so into the north. And then week 4, not much change really. It's the 7th to the 13th of February, still the trough over country combined with the block towards Greenland. The absolute ideal for cold we could do is sending the low pressure. I had to put it in somewhere, didn't I? Sending the low pressure and centering it more around here. If we did that, this block would move southwards and we would drive the wind in properly from the northeast. I think it's a cold core low though, so at the very least there will be wind sheet conditions. Check out the temperature anomalies from CFS week 1. 17th, 23rd of January is rather milder than average, but look at week 2, 24th to the 30th of January, that is going colder than normal, and week 3 is also colder than average as well. It's the 31st of January to the 6th of February, so a couple cold weeks to come there, and staying cold into week 4. Not dramatically so, but consistently below average temperatures forecast there for 3 weeks, which is quite unusual from a CFS. Right, the other thing I'll look at before we look at the AI runs is what's going on with the latest GFS forecast in terms of the stratosphere, because as well as all of this with Scandinavian high and the battle and the possible easterly winds, we've also got interesting signals beginning to emerge, beginning to stratospheric waves. So this is how temperatures are currently looking at 10 HPA over the Arctic and North Pole. Blue colours here, cold temperatures at 10 HPA stratosphere. That's polar vortex at its roots. For the next few days, we're going to see a warming of the stratosphere over Siberia, short of a sudden stratospheric one, but enough to cause a bit of a displacement of the stratospheric polar vortex through Greenland and down into Canada. Into the more extended range, well, we start to see signs of a warming of the stratosphere over eastern Canada, Greenland and the North Atlantic. So that's quite a significant warming that's taking place there, shrinking the stratospheric polar vortex and hinting by the end of the GFS run, not quite there, but hinting that we could see a split of the stratospheric polar vortex starting to take place by the beginning of February there. So if we could roll on another day, so I suspect we would see the familiar two lobes of blue taking place, one sinking down into Western America and one sinking down in towards Russia and Asia and whatnot. And in between, we will probably open up an area of warmer temperature anomalously there and through there. The Strats a slow burner, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. It's worth, keeping a very close eye on that. Right, okay, at the moment, just a hint though. Right, okay, let's have a look at the AI runs, and then we will get this wrapped up. I hope you've enjoyed the video, everyone. Please give us a like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And don't forget, you can give a donation via our PayPal page or via other means. Right, so let's have a quick look there. I'll start off with GEM AI run. No, this is how that was looking. So very similar to the operational model through middle part of next week, battle going on. Again, check this out. We see the wind go around to the east much more easily as that high pressure is stronger, blocking to the door. So by next weekend, as early as next Saturday, we are opening the door to proper easterly winds there. And then it looks like it's staying cold, blocked and pretty wintry right way up to day 10. That blocking area of high pressure going nowhere far. Maybe not all that much so, but certainly cold. And, a lot colder than the operational model run anyway. Right, that's that one done. Let's go on to the ECM. AI runs, check that one out. Again, we've got blocking area of high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west through the middle of the week. And again, we see that blocking area of high pressure winning the battle, get wind around to the east, no problems with that easterly and Scandinavian high. Once the east is through, it's pretty much there with that blocking high pressure up to day 10 and beyond it. The Scandinavian high looking very persistent, doesn't it? And a ridge there may be starting to allow some slightly milder air in from the west by the very end. That's the 1st of February. That is a really long way off, though. The 6Z ECM looks like that. So, again, we've got high pressure back with low pressure. So, maybe not getting the EC through as easily with this AI ECM run. A little bit delayed in getting the EC through, but it does eventually get there. It might push it back by a day or so. No, that could be a signs of the ECM AI run starting to move more towards its operational counterpart. I'll wait and see. But anyway, we've got the EC through by day 10, and it's a persistent, long-lasting, looks like very cold EC actually. Let's have a look at the upper air temperatures with that. That might be turning things really cold there in the closing frames. Though, well, actually it's across northern parts of Europe, so a little bit more of a stronger northeasterly to drag in those -10 and -15 Celsius isotherms there. I think pretty much of a muchness there, to be honest, from the ECM AI run. I was probably nitpicking with that idea, but it's delayed it slightly, the onset of the EC. I don't think there's much difference, to be honest, there between the two ECM AI runs. And then finally, we'll have a look up to GFS AI runs, and then we'll get it wrapped up. Another extended video, but it's a fascinating time of model watching, particularly this divergence between the operational model runs and the artificial intelligence runs. What's going on with that? Well, this will be a GFS AI midnight run. Was looking again, getting that EC through much more easily by the end of the week. Even by Friday, we're into those easterly winds. That looks a bit progressive, I have to say, but like really extensive blocking away to the north, low pressure sinking to the south, cold easterly winds taking us up to day 10. A bit milder there as we get through into the extended range with a push from the southwest. And then the GFS 6Z is looking like that. AI run looking like that from 6Z. And again, we've got the EC coming through much more easily, but the operation run is showing opening the door to those cold easterly winds, and low pressure to the south could bring snow potential into southern parts of the country as well. No problems really up to the end of January. Looks cold, and then beyond that, well, just generally saying cold about blocking area of high pressure towards Scandinavia, going nowhere fast. Shades of 1947, dare I say it, with that AI run. I don't know. Are the AI runs leading us up the garden path here, and are we going to see a massive AI fail? Or is it the AI runs that's leading the way? It's fascinating and going to be really interesting to see how this works out. Personally, I'm not a fan of artificial intelligence weather forecasting, but you've got to move with the times, and, you know, it's an interesting test. Anyway, I'm not saying whether the AI runs have got this right or not, but it is interesting how it works out and how it plays out. It'll either be a massive fail, I would suggest, for the AI runs, or it'll be a fail for the operation runs, and we'll be hailing the artificial intelligence. And as I say, time will tell. Remember, whatever happens, how quickly we get the CC through, though, by the beginning of February, all members of the GEF ensembles, let's go back to it here, quite important chart this, I think. So however long it takes to get that easily through, by the beginning of February, all members, 51 members of the GFS ensemble model, is going for the cold to win. So it could take a bit longer than the AI runs are suggesting, but that seems to be the trend. And it's a pretty consistent trend within the GFS in terms of the temperature anomaly and, you know, the falling anomaly as well. So I think we probably will be turning colder at some point through the end of January into the start of February. How cold, how long lasting, or whether it happens through a Scandinavian high or by other means remains to be seen. Right, okay, well, interesting video. I hope you've enjoyed it, everyone. Extended this one, 26 minutes. We're doing GavsWeatherVids old school at the moment. So if you've enjoyed the vid, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you with more very, very soon. Tomorrow, we're going to have a 6 a.m. UK weather forecast, and we will be live at 6 p.m. Sunday stream, back in business, of course, as well. So live tomorrow, Sunday, 6 p.m. We attend a 14-dayer, and we'll probably include ensembles watch and lots of data in that as well. I think Matthew Sendy is going to be live tonight at 7. I haven't checked with him, but I think he normally is on a Saturday. So Send It will bring you update. Matthew will bring you up to date with all of the 12s model runs, and I'll probably pop into the stream and say hello as well. Well, you enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon, and for this one, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.